Welcome to Marketecture, where you can get smart fast with in-depth interviews of leading technology vendors. I'm Jeremy Kagan, and I'm here with Anastasia Leng, who is the founder and CEO of CreativeX. How are you doing, Anastasia?
I am doing great. Finally back into the swing of things after a tough re-entry into the new year.
What does your product do, and how does it work exactly?
Yes. So, in short, what our product does is it analyzes all the image and video content that brands and marketers put out there, and it helps them understand, first of all, the creative decisions they're making across every piece of visual content they produce, but secondly, how those creative decisions actually impact marketing performance. So if you think about the way we've historically made creative decisions and we've measured our content output, it's typically been based on sampling, analyzing small sets of data, and then making very large inferences from them. And that worked when we made 100 to 1,000 pieces of content a year. When you look at some of the big brands we work with, Unilever, Heineken, Bayer, Google, they produce hundreds of thousands, not millions of pieces of content a year. So our job and our technology job is to give them a truly representative view of the decisions they're making and how ultimately that drives business impact.
And so when you're talking about that, are you talking about something sort of like, I've got two versions of a banner ad. One has a picture of the product and one has a picture of a happy customer. Which one's doing better? How granular in terms of the elements you're talking about? I imagine you're talking about the visual elements in the content and their impact?
So we're talking about visual, the audio as well. We can look at the audio file as well as any text they're using. So we take all those three things and for us, they make up together what we view as the creative. Now, the thing you described is A/B testing, right? Looking at a piece of content, figuring out what's different, what's not. And I love A/B testing. We do it all the time internally. But it's actually really cumbersome and not very effective when you think about it for creative. So what we think about is, what are the things that we can analyze across all your content at scale and determine macro decisions that you're making? So for example, let's say you wanted to understand what percentage of the people you cast in your advertising are diverse and tell an inclusive story about your brand. Right now, answering that question about technology will be virtually impossible, right? You can look to figure out what percentage of your content is consistent with your brand guidelines, your brand values, things like that. The product that got us to market is a product called Creative Quality. So this literally looks at every bit of content you've created and tells you whether or not those videos and images are in line with the best practices for the platforms that they're running on. So for example, the creative landscape has gotten a lot more complicated over the last few years, mostly because you've had the rise of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, all of these platforms which are unique in their own ways. And then as we've ramped up our content production, not only have we had to scale it, but we've also had to add a meaningful layer of customization. And in that, we have, it's a lot of work to remember, what do I need to do to make a piece of content successful on a TikTok versus a YouTube? Our technology can remember that, scale that, analyze that for you, and actually help you make sure that you're meeting the minimum bar in order for that piece of content to be successful.
So you're talking about like formatting specifications or actual performance-based measurements for each one unique for the client?
All of the above. So, for example, and every platform will have their own cut of this. Facebook calls it their brilliant basics. YouTube calls it their ABCDs. And they're essentially, I think about them as creative first principles, the very basic set of things you need to do to make content successful there. They include things like making sure you brand in the first couple of seconds. We're used to branding at the end because that's what TV taught us. But actually, the average view length of a video on a digital platform tends to be between sort of second 1 and second 5. It can include featuring the product a certain way or making sure that the product is a certain percentage of your visual real estate, right? Again, if you think about TV, which is a 15-inch screen, now most things we're watching on something that's a 5-inch screen. It can include things like the use of audio. For example, YouTube will tell you, use the audio, it's an amplifier. But Instagram says, don't use the audio. Most people watch your content with the sound off. So, how do you, and all of these lead to very different creative executions, right? So how do you enable marketers to scale their great creative ideas and maximize the impact of those ideas across the various platforms where they're trying to engage and converse with their customers?